So, the NBA is a league built on time, and I'm not just talking about the 48 minutes on the clock every night. Instead, I'm talking about the invisible clock that follows every player from the moment they step on the court. From draft day to retirement, there's a ticking timer that doesn't pause, doesn't forgive, and trust me, it doesn't wait on anyone. When a player enters the league, the world sees potential, highlights go viral, analysts gush over the tools each player has, and fans, well, they geek out on their favorite star. Every mistake at the beginning of a player's career is a learning experience, and every highlight is a promise of what might be. But the moment that potential meets expectation, the timer starts to count down more aggressively, and ladies and gentlemen, that is when the real story begins. Because in the NBA, talent is rarely the problem. What separates the legends from forgotten names is how you answer the time of pressure, how you respond when the lights are the brightest, when the headlines are the heaviest, and when the questions and criticism start to feel personal. Right now, there are 5 players standing at that crossroad, 5 stars who I follow closely that have brought entertainment to the game, frustrated some of us, and most of all, remind us why we love basketball. But with all that said, all 5 stars are staring at the same harsh truth, and that is the clock is ticking. Trae Young, Devin Booker, Jaylen Green, Zion Williamson, and Ja Morant. All these guys are gifted, adored, and criticized. And something else they have in common is that they're all facing the moment that defines whether they'll be remembered as a generational talent or names that got away in what could have been. Starting off with Trae Young. His journey is a story of unmatched confidence, audacity, and relentless scrutiny. On draft night, the Atlanta Hawks shocked the world by trading away Luka Doncic for Trae, and at that moment, Young was immediately put under a microscope. And it wasn't just from the media, but from fans across the entire league. It felt crazy that the Hawks would bank on an undersized guard to carry the franchise, so many would question whether he could live up to the hype or not. But from day one, Trae embraced the challenge head on. He didn't shy away from the Luka comparisons or anything, as he leaned right into them. 3 years into his career, by the 2021 playoffs, he already had transformed into a must-watch player. And at Madison Square Garden in his first playoff series, he proved that he belonged by stunning the Knicks in round 1, just showing them that he was truly one of them ones. With the many daggers he put up, telling the crowd to be quiet, this would make him hated by New York's fan base, and as the playoffs continued, he took the Hawks to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in years, and in his first game versus Milwaukee, he put up 48 points. Although they came up short in that series, Atlanta had a star that could stand toe-to-toe with the league's best, and this brought major hope to the city. When we look at Trae, he isn't just a scorer, he's a master creator. His court vision is elite, his floater is a deadly weapon, and his deep-range shooting stretches defenses to their breaking point. When he's in rhythm, he can honestly dictate a game from tip-off to buzzer, and that level of control is rare in the league. But hey, the other side of Trae is just as loud. Critics will most definitely point to his inefficiency, high usage rate, turnovers, and defensive lapses, which honestly, I can really understand. And this poses the question, can Trae Young lead a team to real success, or is he forever destined to be a brilliant but flawed star? Yeah, we're all divided when you ask that question. Some admire his playstyle, confidence, and the excitement he brings every night, while others will question whether his style can ever translate to true winning basketball. So now, years after that breakout playoff run, the clock is louder than ever. But like a wise man once said, time will tell, and we'll just have to evaluate him as time goes on. As we leave Trae behind, the narrative shifts slightly, because now we move from a star defined by his creativity and swag to one defined by consistency, simplicity, and the quiet pressure of his prime years, and that's where we dive into Devin Booker. D-Book is a fascinating case study of evolution and expectation. Fans and media once debated whether he was just a scorer or if he could be a true leader, and I mean honestly, we can still say that question is at hand. He's got one of the smoothest scoring games in the NBA, effortless footwork that looks flawless, an absurd ability to create separation, and a mid-range jumper that seems automatic under any circumstance. For a while, the narrative was great stats, bad team. And when he scored 70 points in Boston, it was all great and whatnot, but people said the same thing. Great game, but you still lost. For years, people have questioned whether Booker could lead a team past mediocrity, and if his scoring was something that did make him elite offensively, but that he can't be a true lead man to a championship team. To judge a player early on is something no one should really do, but time has a way of rewriting narratives. And for Booker, he's in his prime now, and he's no longer just a young talent with flashes of brilliance. He's a centerpiece of a team that recently made moves to make him the key focal point. As we all know, the Suns tried things with Bill and Durant, but we all see how that worked. So with Jaylen Green and Dillon Brooks running right next to him, this puts all the pressure on D-Book to lead this team. This here will truly be a new era for the Suns, and more importantly for D-Book. like he has the skills to dominate any game. He can score from anywhere, break down defenses, and carry his team in crunch moments. But skill alone is no longer enough. As he's in his prime, every possession, every play, and every decision carries way more weight than it ever has. None of us are no longer blinded by his beautiful scoring, as we want to see if he can be a franchise leader and get this team back to the promised land, or at least close. So for Booker, the timer is definitely moving forward at a quick rate, but the spotlight isn't just on him anymore, as it's on him and his new teammate, Jaylen Green. Jaylen Green's road to this moment is equally about proving he belongs in conversations as a top shooting guard, just as much as proving that he actually has talent and not just highlight material plays. Being drafted second overall in 2021, he entered the league with the kind of hype most players can only dream of. Explosiveness, athleticism, and the kind of scoring burst that makes an entire arena rise to its feet. Like really, all of us, and don't lie, all of us thought he would come in and be electric, and honestly, he kinda did. But basketball is more than highlights, and in Houston, inconsistency became the story fast. Nights where it seemed like everything would click were quickly countered by nights where he seemed invisible, and that's when questions arose about his decision making, defense, and efficiency. The media narratives would soon shift from hope to skepticism, as the question was no longer how good could he be, but instead you now hear people say, will he ever be more than just flashes? Now that Jaylen is on the Suns alongside Devin Booker in exchange for Kevin Durant, his new chapter puts him directly in position to strive and showcase that he can be a star in the league. This here changes everything. Green isn't just chasing potential anymore. He's being asked to grow, adapt, and prove that he can actually contribute in an efficient way. If you ask me, this trade doesn't seem like it moves the needle for the Suns, but I'm excited to see how things work. So when we talk about the clock, it's ticking for Jaylen Green, as many people have already written him off, but I'ma still give him some time. But best believe, time isn't forever, as it definitely has an expiration date. Now as we leave the Suns duo for a moment, the narrative shifts once again, and man oh man is the timer beeping loud for this guy, and that is Zion Williamson. Now Zion, he entered the league with a hype machine unlike anything in recent memory. The most dominant college player of his generation, a #1 overall pick, and social media couldn't get enough of him. When he stepped on the floor, he lived up to nearly every expectation, as he was a force in the paint, efficient, unstoppable when healthy, and capable of changing the game simply by stepping on the court. But as we all know, health has been his downfall just as much as his dominance has been his shining light. We're talking about the injuries, conditioning issues, and minor setbacks have defined Zion more than highlights these days. He's had fewer than 200 games in 5 seasons, fans have shifted from being in awe to frustration, and the admiration for his game is no longer enough for people to be satisfied. Some see a generational talent being held back by circumstances, and others see a player failing to live up to what was promised. And you already know, media coverage has been relentless. They've questioned his work ethic, called him fat, talked about his preparation, and focused on the game. Truly, it sucks to see him not live up to what we think he should be at this moment, as every time we do see Zion play, we are instantly reminded of his ceiling. But hey, the clock is still ticking. With each game missed and each setback, it brings the timer closer to running out. So the question isn't whether Zion can dominate, but whether we'll ever get to see him dominate consistently. And this is something that isn't just a question for him, as the electric star in Ja Morant has this same question around his game. Ja Morant is the kind of player that makes the NBA feel alive. Rookie of the Year, Most Improved, All-NBA, and highlights that travel faster than social media can handle. His dunks get the arena exploding alongside that grenade celebration, and this truly sets him apart from the rest. And no, I'm not talking about just the highlight dunks. I'm talking about when every time he steps on the floor, the Memphis Grizzlies just play much better. I call this here the Ja effect. He just makes his teammates feel as if they can accomplish anything, fans love his theatrics, and for a second there, a lot of us figured he'd be the face of the league. This right here is what we call generational motion. But with motion comes risk. His off-court decisions led to suspensions, social media controversies followed as well, and suddenly the story shifted. Media started to question his maturity, they scrutinized every action of his, and the public perception became divided. Could the player who captured hearts and headlines shift the narrative back in his favor, and can Ja stay healthy enough to stay on the court? Like, we all know that Ja's talent is undeniable, and he can take over a game in ways few players can, and that's why I put him last. So I don't believe his clock is moving that fast like the others, but he is someone who can't waste time or else he'd be talked about like everybody else. So yeah, Trae Young, Devin Booker, Jaylen Green, Zion Williamson, and Ja Morant. 5 stars, 5 stories, and 5 clocks ticking louder than any buzzer in the league. Always remember, the NBA doesn't wait, and potential doesn't matter. So the question is always the same. What are you gonna do when the timer is ticking? If you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you're first to know when I upload. I thank you all for your support, and I'll see you in the next video.